Welcome to another episode of The Real Truth. As always, I'm your host, BX Bad Boy. And today we're going to do a follow-up on meltdowns, nervous breakdowns, and tantrums. Had a conversation, and now I'm going to elaborate. Now, as I said, I'm going to elaborate on some things, and for those of you who are watching me on YouTube, you'll be able to see exactly what I'm talking about. Those who are listening to me on podcasts, I'm going to read it, so you'll know what I'm talking about, but you won't see it for yourself, unfortunately, unless you go to my YouTube channel, which is part of my websites and ways to get in contact with me and my brother and our channel. So let me begin with nervous breakdown. So let's switch to this. For those of you who can see this, I'm still going to read it, but you don't have to listen to me read it. Now, nervous breakdown, according to the Mayo Clinic, it is sometimes used by people to describe a stressful situation in which they're temporarily unable to function normal in a day-to-day life. It's commonly understood to occur when life's demands become physically and emotionally overwhelming. So essentially, stressed out is a nervous breakdown. So when you can't take the stress anymore of the life that's given to you and the life that's in front of you, it tends to be called a nervous breakdown. Now, I bring this up because I was having a conversation with a female from TikTok. I was offering her to come on the channel and talk for her own piece, and I have nothing against her saying no because of her anxiety. That's fine. But we were discussing, and I was telling her how I have a meltdown, 2 episodes on how to deal with a meltdown. She's like, she called it a tantrum and had the slight misunderstanding of what these things are. So she assumed or made the statement that I was making fun of those who, have tantrums versus people that have real conditions. And that is so far from the truth. A meltdown is something different. Now, you saw nervous breakdown. Now, here is meltdown's definition. Now, there's a few definitions for meltdown for obvious reasons. One definition is, a nuclear power plant. But the definition we need for us is a breakdown of self-control, as from fatigue or overstimulation. 2 different things, very similar, but there are 2 different things. There's a difference between a meltdown and a nervous breakdown. Now, if you get exhausted from the situation you're in and you begin to lose self-control because of it, essentially anger. A meltdown is similar to a tantrum. The difference is the stress is too much for you to take. Now, it could be personal stress, or it could be stress from the job, meaning that there's so much work to be done, you can't, it's just so difficult to exist. And the other way is someone pissing you off to the point where you just can't sit back and go, okay, no problem. You essentially snap, as definition 2 says, a rapid or disastrous decline or collapse of your control. So once that happens, you have a meltdown. Now, let's talk about tantrum. Uncontrolled outbursts of anger and frustration, typically in young children. These 3 things are completely different because they're different levels. One is for a child, one is for just regular stress. The other one, essentially, like this one here, nervous breakdown, that seems to be, from the definition, when you completely snap and almost on the verge of crazy. Okay? Now, meltdown is right before that, where you just break down some self-control, where in essence, you know how you get into a fight with somebody and you can hold back by telling them to go fuck themselves? When you have a meltdown, at that point, you start cursing. Not necessarily out of control, without any self-awareness, but as a retaliation, where you can't sit back and just absorb the bullshit coming out of their mouth. Nervous breakdown is when you have no control over your entire existence, so you'll just be saying anything. That's the different levels. Now, most adults don't have tantrums. The ones that do are still childish in the mind. Okay? Now, tantrum and nervous breakdown are basically the same things, just different levels. As a child, children don't have control over their emotions, plain and simple, so they have a tantrum. But nervous breakdown is when you lose control because the stress is so overwhelming. Now, as I mentioned prior to this in Meltdown, there's multiple ways to deal with it. And most people think it's so difficult. And it really isn't. And not to put any shade on, oh, you can't handle it, but it really is this simple. I make this joke over and over again, and it's not really a joke, but it's a joke because it sounds funny. Fukitol, which stands for Fukitol. Now, Fukitol is a way of being funny to saying fuck it all. In my life, I've had all three: tantrum, meltdown, and a nervous breakdown. And I was on the verge of a schizophrenic attack, so to speak, or break. And I was so set to end my own life, to literally go insane, because I couldn't handle what was given to me. And then it hit me. I was searching the internet, and someone put up a meme, we'll say almost 15, 20 years ago. And it was a pill commercial meme. So like an advertisement for a pill. And in the pill's name, it says Fukitol. So it's like one of the oldest things I've seen on the internet. And it never really hit me how to use it. And then one day it said, you know what? I'm not the problem. The problem is the problem. So I must remove the problem. Now the problem was how I reacted to a psycho bitch, or people in general. So I said to myself, you know what? It's the problem and they're my problem. So remove both or one and things will just be so much simpler. My son's mother is probably the one person who's dug her claws into me more than everyone in my life combined. She played with my soul, she played with my heart, and she played with my son. Ordinarily, most people would lose their shit and either do something or definitely have plans to do something, like have the shovel and the axe standing by. And I was getting to that point, and I said to myself, why? Why do I let this bitch control me? And then I sat back and I said, you know what, fuck it all. Because my rules, my 10 commandments. Now, I'm going to have to, I know it sounds stupid that I have to go find them, only because I want to make sure I say them word for word. But the 10 commandments I created, which I was hoping would get some more traction than they got, but they only got 18 views and 2 comments. But we're going to go into the 10 commandments anyway. Now, if you look at my 10 commandments right here on my YouTube channel, 1 second. Now, rule number 1 is perception. What people see is more important than what you mean. Anyone is capable of anything means you got to be careful, because anyone can do anything. And 3, you don't have to prove your right to be right. So accept it and move on. Bada bing. Rule number 3. When I fought with my son's mother, it didn't matter that I was right. It didn't matter if she was in the wrong. Because the fact is, the fight never changed anything. From the time she left me when she was 6 months, ran away like a bitch when she was 6 months pregnant to her mommy. And took my son with her in her stomach, because she knew that she can control my child, and when I see him and how I see him, if she ran back to Jersey while I was living in New York and hid behind her mother. So once the baby was born, she would control it. And that's exactly what she's been doing for the last 12 years. But let's not go there. But we will go into rule number 3. So rule number 3 simply applies. No matter how much I fought with her, no matter how much shit I talked, no matter how much right I was, didn't change anything. And most of the time, it was just words. Words from a mule that I allowed to fuck me up, something awful. So I would constantly have meltdowns, constantly have close to nervous breakdowns, where all I can think of is homicide. And it was like, wow, she's not even married to me or dating me, and boy, can she get under my skin. And that's because she was fucking with my child and me. Nobody gets between me and my child. I don't care if it's the cops. I don't care if it's Jesus, if he's even real. I don't care if it's God. Nobody interferes with me and my child. You're gonna have to kill me. But then I started thinking, what the fuck am I doing? Fuck it all. Let her talk. Yeah her to death. I forgot how to deal with people like her. And traditionally men would say deal with women. And I'm not going to be sexist because I know men similar to her where you have to figure out how to deal with them, but yang them to death is all you need to do. Because their words aren't going to change shit. Because guess what? Words don't mean shit. I'll revert back to my child, my son, the joy of my life. Words, you can tell him whatever the fuck you want. He's going to do whatever he's going to do because words have no power. The threat has power, but the words itself have no power. But the threat means nothing if you don't follow through with the threat. For instance, I tell my son I'm going to give him such a whooping that his mother's going to cry. I got to at least give him that whipping once so he knows what I'm talking about. I don't have to beat my son as much as you think with the ways I've discussed this in previous conversations. Well, previous talking to the fucking wall. But anyway, I only had to hit him a few times over the years for him to get it through his skull. When I make a threat, the punishment's coming, discipline is coming up your ass. He's like, oh shit. Sometimes it takes more than one time of threatening or getting close to his face like, listen, you know what I can do to you. Because I need actions to back up the words. That's why people say words mean nothing without actions. In the sense like, I can say sorry all I want. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. But if every time I say sorry, I turn around and do the same fucking thing, then my words mean nothing. My actions have to meet my words. Same thing with discipline. If you don't meet your actions and words, children just don't care. There's 6 beautiful kids. Okay, I love them all. But words mean absolutely nothing. But a nice belt makes all the difference in the world. And honestly, you don't even have to hit them with it. Now, don't get me wrong, this is most effective, but you don't have to. All you have to do is take that belt to a wall, to a box, to another object. They can see the devastation that it can do. And be like, do you want to be the box? Do you want me to do to you what I just did to that box? No. And get your ass in there and clean that room. That's it. Yes, I understand it's controlled by fear, but it's not really so much controlled by fear. They must know there's a consequence. And sorry, children today don't care if you take away their video games. They don't care if you take away their phone. They don't care if you take shit away from them. I've taken everything away from my son next to his ability to breathe. And he still did it. He actually reverted back to doing more of it and worse because now he has nothing to lose. So it doesn't matter at all with the verbal. Discipline without action isn't discipline, it's just yelling. So you have to back up your word, or what's the point? So to get back to the subject, all 3 things are stress related, emotion related, which is another type of stress, because you got multiple stresses: strength stress, emotional stress, and physical stress, like something's too heavy. Now, all of them could potentially break you and make you crack like an oyster. But if you remember the simple Fukitol rule, it makes things easier. I know it sounds like you're supposed to be heartless or careless, but no, you need to read my shirt. I don't know, hold on a second, let me move the mic. You need to read my shirt and be just this. Because if you're not going to be savage about it, you're never going to get ahead. And I'm not saying being mean and disrespectful or hurtful. But if you're not going to break out the claws, then you're not a tiger. You're a kitten. So, in part, you got to be mean in the sense that you got to be straightforward and to the point. I don't care what you got to say. It doesn't change the facts. Look at most of the Trump supporters. He lost the election. Biden's already in office and already making executive orders while Trump is hunkered down in Florida trying not to go to jail. But the Trump supporters, not all of them, are still saying he's going to be president. There's literally no way in hell he can be president right now. No way. Even if Biden dies, even if Kamala dies, even if Nancy dies, it goes down the chain of command. He's not part of that chain at all. So he cannot be president again. Now, there's a small, I like to say rule, where they can bring in old presidents, but they're not going to be able to because there's not enough people to say yes, bring back that president. And you would have to wipe out the whole chain of command first. That's not going to happen. You'd have to wipe out the whole government. So there's no way Trump's going to be president. No way humanly possible for him to be president. But the Trump supporters that are sycophants or fanatic, they still think there's a way. This is all part of the plan. No matter how nuts it sounds, they still think it's part of the plan. So, with that statement, you have to be similar to them, where it doesn't matter what anyone tells you, as long as you know you're true. You know you're right. Now, yes, they're not right, but they're also not right in the head. So, as long as you don't mind that, fine. It's a push pop I stole from my son. Strawberry. So, as long as you stay in your knowledge, it doesn't matter what anyone else says. It doesn't even matter what anyone else does. As long as they're not physically interfering with you, meaning hitting you, blocking you, tying you up, blah, blah, blah. Fuck it all. So I learned with my son's mother to just yeah her to death and don't care what she says. She said some really foul shit. She called me a useless man. She called me a horrible father. She said I'm stupid, don't know what I'm doing. These are all things that could get somebody seriously physically hurt. I don't care. Just don't care. Fuck you and the horse you rode in on. Now, it's easier said than done. I'll give you that. That doesn't mean it can't be done. It doesn't mean it ain't true. Because you know what? If I were to tell you stories of what my son's mother's done to me, what she said to me, what she's called me, how she's treated me, how she twisted my heart, you would like, how are you sane and how come she's not dead? Fuck it all. I'll give you one story, and this will be the epitome of the story, okay? This one will tell you everything you need to know about her and a magnitude of what I've been put through. She came up to see me with our baby. She stayed a week. She made me spend over $2,500 that week. That $2,500 is meant for a down payment on rent to move closer to her so I could be a father. But I spent it because she said she was coming back to stay. She was going to spend a week with me, go back, get her stuff, and then come home. So, why not? So I spent the $2,500. She asked me, she said, buy one of these 3 rings we saw in the jewelry store. And they were engagement and wedding bands. And she'll marry me. Doesn't matter how much they costed, just one of these 3 rings. So, I did it. I bought the rings. I took the engagement ring. I put it on her finger. She accepted my hand in marriage. At least my proposal. Then when the week was done, she couldn't get the ring off, so I had to cut the ring off her finger. She went back home, and the next time we spoke, she said I was a piece of shit. She never wants anything to do with me. I'm scum. And there's no fucking way she's marrying me. Okay. Huh? So that's just a piece of what I've been put through. I don't know about you, but I can see that driving any person, sane or otherwise, insane. Do I seem insane to you? By all means, leave a message, leave a comment, let me know you think I'm insane or not. But fuck it all. Save me from going nuts. And the more I put it into fruition, the happier I became. Like, she's done nothing but talk shit to my son. She told my son I'm scum, I don't really love him, all kinds of things. And I just prove my points to my son and show him the truth. And that's it. And I said, I don't get stressed out by it. I don't get necessarily bothered by it. I move on. Kooky, innit? I've never told my son his mother doesn't love him. I told him, Mommy loves you. Without question, she loves you. She just doesn't know how to parent. And I'll tell it to her face, she doesn't know how to parent. But that's neither here nor there. But what is? That's just a part of the story. How do you feel if that was you in my shoes? On that note, Fukitol.